right, folks, so this is a special meeting with Kent Board of Selectmen, December 13th, 2018, calling it to order at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Its sole purpose is to talk to the people representing groups and organizations that have requests in the 5-year capital plan, specifically for fiscal year 2024, which is the year that rolls into the plan in the upcoming budget. We have here with us Marty Lindenmeyer representing the Kent Center School Board of Education, John Grant and Leslie Ferris representing the Kent Park and Recreation Commission. We're expecting Rick Osborne, road foreman, to be here, and we are expecting representatives from the Kent Volunteer Fire Department at some point. I think that's it. John is on some deadline, being lunch hour, so we'll go all the way to the bottom to the Emery Park playgrounds, which are in the capital plan, proposed to be in the capital plan for $500,000. Excuse me, for $100,000.
We'll take it.
Deluxe playground, yeah. It's worth noting that there's already begun funding for playgrounds at 50 and 50. So I'll start by asking, those are for
Common Park.
all is for Kent Common? So those two,
No,
those
it's
250
The
is
250
Kent
is
Common?
split, yeah,
Yeah.
that's for Kent Common Park.
Okay, Kent Common. Both of those are common?
Yes.
The 250s, okay. And so the 100 that we're specifically addressing today is for, in its entirety, replacement of the Emery Park playground. Replacement of or addition to?
Replacement.
So I guess I would ask you to speak to it, and as to the reason for the need for replacement. It doesn't seem like it's been, I mean, I was part of the group that helped put it in. It doesn't seem like it's been that long that playground has been there. So,
I've done a lot of maintenance with Rick's help. We've re-welded a lot of the swing sets and stuff, like the chains that hold it, yeah. I've been painting it and trying to control the rust on it and everything like that. So it was assembled in 2000, so it's pretty old. Plus, right now it's sitting on an area where there's a lot of water.
Yes.
So which has to be fixed first before we do anything else. But definitely needs it. It's not appealing to all the young kids that come there. I think it's for the wrong age group that we have for that playground. So, I mean, we're looking at different playgrounds. Leslie will tell you that might fit that area altogether. And we're trying to come up with a basic theme for all the parks, so that represents the town.
So what age group is the target for Emery Park?
We're looking at the ones that go to the camp, so that would be 8 to 12.
6 to 12.
6 to 12, yeah.
12, and your opinion, or maybe your professional opinion from someone else, is that the one that's there is more towards a different age group? Or is this just a case of it's reached its life?
It has reached its life. It'll be, 24 years old by the time that funding comes in.
That's amazing.
I know, it goes like that. So 20 years about is the time frame.
Okay.
So it really comes down to, by that time, a safety concern.
That's true, that is 5 years out too.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
And just to jump, the 50 Kent Commons, is that playgrounds as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, just sort of thinking creatively here, which of the two is more imperative to replace?
Well, they both need site work. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. They really have two different appeals, Chris, and keep in mind that the playground at Kent Center School is no longer accessible by the public during the day. The commission, as you know, has done a lot of work at Kent Common, and actually the commission's been having conversation about having a vision of planning, as John mentioned, for the parks overall. Emery Park definitely used more during the summer, although when I'm up there off-season, just randomly, there's people who stop in and come down, with their kids and use the playground, so.
Yeah, I guess I'm more focused on safety, that's all.
Yeah.
So of the two, which one is in
Well, they're actually going both the same way, they're both
Okay.
going at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
I was just looking at.
There's no difference between the two of them, because I'm trying to keep up the maintenance on both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Where I'm going is, obviously on the Kent Commons playground, you did 50 and 50, so it was a 2-year stretch.
Right.
And yet you've chosen not to do that here.
The 50/50 was not our choice, the selectmen split that for Kent Common Park. We had asked for 100 all at one time,
Right.
and they divided it out over 2 years because of the bottom line.
Which is fairly typical if you look at expenditures, so we try to, you know, try to do that, because when you look at the bottom line, we're already over $1 million in requests, so.
Right.
And sometimes it's the Board of Selectmen, and sometimes it's the Board of Finance.
Right, exactly,
You know.
so, yeah, so that was not how the request was
So
originally.
this is just your recommendation, okay.
So we're trying to get something that's appealing to a different age group down at Kent Commons Park as well. And then as a real estate agent, you know, you want to show the parks, it's a great park. All we need to do is dress it up a little bit more. I've done all the work that we can for weeding and cutting trees and stuff like that over there with the help of the volunteers. And we're at the point now, we just have to, you know, decide where we're gonna go, our vision, what our plan is, so.
And does it make sense to have your vision first? Will you
Well, if we
plan that?
if we halt the progress where it is now in this situation, if we move to another column for another year off, I mean, our planning and our vision should be coming up within that budget deadline that you have currently.
Yeah, I guess my train of thought again is if $100,000 for Kent Commons, and then we put it in, and then you have a vision that goes beyond that, that $25,000 more would have helped,
Right.
done right.
Right.
Maybe that's a better attack. Maybe it's not. Sometimes it's fine just to put it in and then build around it.
Yeah.
My biggest question, perhaps you know, aren't ready to address it, and if you're not, just say so, is the future of Emory Park. When we did the major rehab that got it to where it is today, when was that, Leslie? Again, quite a while ago.
Yes, 2005.
And we were told that would be about a 20-year life, I think, at that time, is that correct?
Okay. Yep.
And that's the way we also presented it to the town, so we're getting there as well. So I guess my concern is putting money into a playground. Are we convinced, especially with all the work you've done, John?
Right, yeah. Well, it's not me, it's all the kids.
Well,
Yeah.
you spearheaded it, so I'm gonna give you credit. These are updated copies of the capital plan, please take one, everybody, so we're all talking about the, one that has the date of, really, that's the most updated, 6/5/2018 at the bottom? I think we
The
got-
last one that was approved at town meeting is the one that crossed into this year.
This is 2023. So all this is
Well, this is
the approved budget.
what got approved. at
This
town
is the,
meeting.
this is the one we're
approved
operating under right now, okay.
The one that got sent out, there was a mistake in that
Unless you have-
2023 was $5,000 off, I think.
Okay, but this is the one that's in the works right now. All right, so back to what I was saying.
Right.
Concerned about the future of Emory Park, and I'm not trying to turn this meeting into a discussion of the future of Emory Park, but would seem to have a potential impact on whether we should be spending $100,000 to replace a playground. I don't know, I'm not opposed to replacing the playground, I'm not speaking against it. You understand what I'm?
Yeah, but the thing is that came up in the state of Connecticut, the thing that most people were interested in for the state parks and parks in general was the fact that they were looking for trails and playgrounds. And that was the opinion of all the people in the state of Connecticut, so. I mean, you need to do something. I mean, because I've come to a point now where I need some more direction as far as what we're gonna have there, so. And that playground would look nice, but, you know, we just have to just wait and see. I mean, the whole problem is just budgeting like we've done, and I'll be more than ready by the time that budget comes up, so that money comes available, so.
I'm gonna echo what Bruce says. I totally get the Kent Commons, makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've planned it, and you've done lots of nice changes there, and it's grown well. Whether you have a master plan or not, it seems like there is.
And that's a very outdated playground as it is.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, it is the only accessible one year-round, to the degree that, you know, you're not encouraging people to go down to Emery Park.
Right.
What I would say about Emery Park is, much to what Bruce is saying, I think you have to provide your long-term park and rec vision of what's going to go on there. And that may include more than $100,000, we don't know.
Right.
But $100,000 for a playground where, one, it's part-time, two, as Bruce said, maybe with the demographics change, maybe there's, less use for it. Is that the best place for the resources?
I feel it is, because even though it's part-time, and you don't wanna take the risk of hurting anybody, or anybody getting hurt at the playground.
No, of course not.
So, I mean, it's better to put it up front now and get it done like we have.
Right, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate. For 20 grand or 25 grand, you can put up swings and leave it at that. You don't need to put in the big playground, because if it's only part-time and it's only for usage that's limited, having the big plastic with multiple layers and jumping and things, I don't know. It seems to me expensive. And I know we did it at the center school years and years ago. I think it was a mix of fundraising and volunteering to put it up. And that's expensive. That was expensive just to get it, and then we had to assemble it, so.
Yeah, see, that's the whole point too in the playground. A lot of the hidden factors for the cost are, it has to be professionally assembled.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Is that a requirement now? 'Cause
Yeah,
it was.
by state.
Insurance wise,
Yeah, yeah.
Because the one that's at Emery Park now was not.
Right.
And me touching it and having Rick do something to it, it's not really legally,
Mm.
with the welding. With the welding.
Chris and Bruce, to go back to what you were saying, the commission has started to engage in conversation about the future of the parks and something, that they've started to look at, so, certainly understand what you're saying.
Yeah, because I'm not anti-playground at all.
Right.
I don't agree with, doing something like putting in swings or something like that, but I am concerned, I'm not anti-Emery Park either, but I am concerned about Emery Park and its future. And I try to go there at least a few times every summer, and if the camp wasn't there, there just wouldn't be anybody there. And we've done a ton of work there to make it a nicer place, and there's still not anybody there. And I'm not saying this to be negative, I'm
No, I
not
understand.
campaigning against Emery Park, but there's just nobody there. It used to be a gathering place. When Alan was a kid, that was the place to be in Kent when you were 13, 14 years old. That's where I used to find my baseball team when I had a game and I needed to get to the game. Not anymore.
I think what happened is, there was a lot of bad mojo going on about it. There was, people were talking about it on Facebook and stuff like that years ago. And even when you did that survey, we had a lot of negativity about it. So if we can just change that negativity around and highlight it more with new stuff, I think people will show up.
I hope you're right.
I got a feeling I am. I've gone this far.
Yeah, maybe another way to look at this is, if you didn't have Emery Park, let's just say you decided to decommission it because no one's going there, and you had $100,000 more, what would you do with that?
I want to buy a nice car.
$100,000 more than you.
Well, if what I'm saying is, if there was $100,000 more
In
to
the
do
budget?
something in Kent Commons or downs,
Oh.
or the ball
I
fields,
see.
or something else under your purview, because the reality is, whether you build it or not, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll come.
Right.
If we don't have we all coached baseball for years and years, and we had tons of kids. Now they can't even, we had four very strong Little League teams at one point.
Yes, but don't forget, your school enrollment has
Demographics are coming.
nosedived,
So if that's the case,
Right.
to Bruce's point,
Right.
the demographics are going down,
Mhm.
you're gonna have a playground, and you're gonna have one kid on it as opposed to 20 kids on it.
Potentially.
And I think I guess really the short answer is, maybe there should be more homework behind this $100,000 for Emery Park. that comes to us in a real plan, much to what you're talking about, the overall plan. Delaying it a year might not be that big a deal, it may be, and it may be something that you guys say, hey, this is a big emergency, we have to take care of and do something. But
Well, if it's a
I'm
safety
leaning
issue,
towards,
that's concerning.
Yes, I mean,
Well, definitely by that time,
you're
it'll
talking
be almost
$100,000 just for
25
somebody to
years
get hurt on a playground, so.
but come on, we can go to, you drive up and down Route 7 and jump on a playground, every single one of them's out of compliance, or many of them are, so,
Well,
you know, I'm not of the mindset to spend money just because there's a potential for that. If it's negligence, then we need to know about it. If it's not negligence, if it's merely that, you know, we're not in compliance because this doesn't, when we put it in, it wasn't in compliance, then that's something that we can, I think, give a little bit more thought to.
Yeah, but currently, when you look at it and you have kids come over and they see that it's spotted, it's got paint spots all over it because I've been trying to patch up, and then they see rust and all the other stuff, parents are concerned.
So could you put $10,000 in your budget to handle that?
Well, I don't know, I don't think so. I mean, I would have to,
All I'm saying is this, I'm not necessarily saying that you shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is it doesn't sound like there's, aside from we want to replace it, there's no plan, as you guys are going to grapple with, of what is the future of that park. And if that came in the context of, well, this is our future, you know, and you lay it out on a map, and we're gonna do ball fields here, and hiking trails here, and this here, and this here, and this is the long-term plan that we need to do. First, we have to put $100,000 into the infrastructure of playgrounds and fencing and things like that. Then we're gonna move to the ball field, then we're gonna move to the trail system, and it's gonna cost the town all of this. And if we buy into it, then that's what we do. But I think, just on the face of it, $100,000 for a playground just sounds, it's akin, I don't know, I think it needs more context.
Well, as I've said 2 or 3 times already, and you have as well, my only concern about the expenditure for the playground is not the playground. If it's a safety issue and it's gonna continue to be a viable park and so forth, then it needs to be fixed one way or another, fixed or replaced. My only concern is it's 5 years into the future. Where are we gonna be with Emery Park in 5 years? I don't know. I know John's hopes and desires, having put as much time and effort as he and others have put into it, what they are, and I agree with those, but.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing.
And I just sort of, you know, I guess I sort of wonder what a townsperson, and they'll have a chance to chime in on this in January, will say about putting $100,000 into a playground there. Sounds like you can make a pretty good case for replacement, if for no other reason than safety and age.
right.
Not just because we need a new one or, you know.
Well, and if we needed a new one, and it was within, and we knew that the park was burgeoning each year with kids, and I think your question is, which I am echoing, is it not? What is the long-term viability of the park, is what you said, I think.
Yeah.
And then if there is a plan, what is the context in which we can put that $100,000 in, so that you're confident, I'm confident, and the town's confident that we're spending money in that right spot for this long-term plan.
I mean, I would be, having said all that, I would be in favor of leaving that $100,000 in here for the purposes of taking it to the town meeting in January.
That sounds good.
That, the town meeting in January, Chris and I, when he was on Park and Rec, Board of Finance actually, came up with the idea of bringing the capital plan to the townspeople in January for educational purposes only, no vote by anybody. Hardly generates any reaction, but at least we made the effort to bring it out. And, yeah, they might bring out some of the same stuff that we've just brought out today, I don't know, but I don't know if you agree with that, Chris, leaving it in there until that point, but,
The good thing about leaving it here is it brings up the discussion point.
Yeah.
I would think it would be not the best move if indeed you came up with a plan 2 years from now as to what it was gonna be, and we hadn't saved enough to execute that. And the $100,000 isn't enough because it's only gonna take care of one thing. Then we gotta backtrack, and then you're gonna have to ask again, and then wait the whole line. I love the idea of having a long-term strategic plan. I don't know what the results will be, but likely there'll be, certainly, there's still a use for it. But I think if you had that, then you would say, you know, much like most of us do, you know, we get fire trucks and we know that this is our plan. And I think having been on Park and Rec, and you as well, we didn't do that. And maybe we should have done the bigger long-term planning.
Sounds like you are.
And that's what we're talking about. We have some new commission members,
Oh, yeah.
right up their alley, so that's the conversation that will continue this month, next month, so you'll be hearing from them.
And so to that order, I would be more inclined to budget money in your operating account to create that plan and not put this in until it's ready.
It could equal up to about 50,000 for the plan.
On Emery Park,
Yeah.
And on the parks.
Parks in general.
on all the parks.
Yeah.
The two parks.
Bringing in an independent consultant to
Right.
do such a plan. Good.
Well, I think you'll probably be challenged on that too, in the budget, at $50,000.
But if we don't, I mean, we're looking for a theme, some sort of ideas, we're looking for longevity, these guys would have it.
Well, I appreciate that, John, we're dealing with the plan, but I'm just saying that I think the scope of it, when with respect of an actual strategy and plan, maybe you wanna bite them in smaller chunks. Have an overall theme and then bite them in smaller chunks. Emery Park, Kent Commons, where's the other one?
That's it.
How many did you have before?
I'm sorry?
How many did you have before?
I think the cemeteries.
And when we talk Emily Park, we're also including the trails.
Right.
And we did the ball field, so that's probably part of it too, right? You
Well,
guys-
the ball fields are not town property, we just lease that, so.
Right, but we used to do all the work on it.
Yeah, there's,
Still do.
the town does. but
Okay, so
not-
you're only
not for us.
talking two facilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would be, I continue to be in favor of leaving it in there, at least for now, to let the townspeople have a look at it.
Okay.
Because we're far from a finalized capital plan, as you know. So,
I mean, I think it's a great investment. I mean, moving forward, right now I've got Lori Dawson involved from Marblewood School. She's gonna take that feeder pond and turn it into a class education outside center, so,
See, that kind of stuff needs to be,
yes.
and I'm sure it's probably a relatively new idea, but needs to be better communicated,
Right.
publicized. Because whether they do at the January meeting or not, the Board of Finance probably will want to know, sort of the same stuff that we were just talking about. What is the future of this? Not of so much of Kent Commons, but of Emery Park.
So I understand if we don't maintain it, it goes right back to the original owners of the park?
I don't know what's in the
Indeed,
deed, the
okay.
people that donated the property to the park, I mean, Leslie, you probably
It's
know.
deeded as recreational to the town, so
Yeah.
it's the town's to,
I mean, it's not gonna be sold
can't be.
for residences or
Yeah.
something like that,
Can't be.
but I just do know, having grandchildren and so forth, that there's a lot of people in this town that just don't use that facility, and you gave some reasons earlier for that, and to some degree, I agree with you. Old opinions, oh, the water's so cold, well, it used to be really, really cold, right, Alan?
Yes.
Like, you use him as a kid, so, it's not so much anymore.
I learned to swim.
Yeah. So anyway, it sounds like you're working on
Okay.
that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we'll leave it in there for now, Chris, for the
Yep,
January?
I'm good.
Okay,
I have no more questions.
okay. Alan, you get back to work?
Yes.
You do, so why don't we go to that's why we went to John, because he had to, why don't we go to you next?
Retired, Marty, sorry.
Retired.
Oh, retiring, huh?
That's my time isn't it?
Marty, that's you around 6.
Charge you.
Marty, you can go have lunch, and then you can,
Okay, Alan, for the fire department, Chris and I were talking before, the plan, the proposed plan shows, which I don't know if anybody else has, Chris, you have the same one, Chris?
Yeah,
It shows-
mine, pencil.
It shows a gap, in, fiscal, 24, excuse me a second. Excuse me, go ahead.
I'll turn it. So engine
You'll
eight
be busy by 3.
is what I believe, 2023 is the $200,000, correct?
that was part of the
Did you
plan.
know we have a Hilton Hotel in Cornwall Bridge now? That was them. Jesus.
Did you get the points?
They're doing a lot of stuff up there, I was wondering.
I just came through there, there wasn't a Hilton Hotel.
Prefab.
Told them that.
We gotta put a capital plan together.
Go ahead.
So Alan, what we're talking about is 2023, I'm sorry, yes. We have $200,000. It's not noted, but I believe that's engine 8, is that accurate?
Rescue aid.
I'm sorry.
Rescue aid.
Rescue 8,
Rescue
Yes.
aid.
And that's what I came before you for last year,
okay.
and the Board of Finance. And we had an estimate, the estimate is $425,000 for the replacement
Yeah,
of that.
okay.
And so you went forward with $200,000, the Board of Finance went forward with $200,000, and then my understanding last year, and as I see on the plan, it was put in as in that year, so it made the crossover,
Mhm.
$200,000,
Right.
not the whole amount. You couldn't do the 425 in one year. So this year, I thought it happened automatically, meaning the rest of the money was explained to me no. So at the Board of Selectmen meeting last month, Bruce, you told me to hand the paper, which I did on the 1st of November, to my very special person at the end of the table, which I did. I have my copy here, and that was to put in. I used the 200,000. We were estimating 425,
To
but I
put
used
it, to put it into what year though?
This year.
into the next year, the 24, 25, because we're in 23, 24. Unless I read these wrong.
Yeah, we're moving into
Okay,
fiscal year
because
24.
right now, that
Oh, it
additional
has to be.
200 is shown in the column headed 25.
Okay.
There's nothing in the proposed capital plan, there's nothing for Rescue 8 in 2024.
Okay. I put it in 24 on my paper.
24, 25 you put it in. It should be in 23, 24.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
see,
So it's just a
but
typo.
it
all right,
says
so
24.
basically it was a misunderstanding.
It's understanding, so he wants, it is on the
Yes,
capital
at the top
plan, but
it
in the
says
wrong year.
24.
Okay.
So that's right, I mean, it says
So we
24
wanna
at the
move
top.
that, Chris, as we talk?
Yeah, it has to move into there, because, so Alan, what we really need is just a recap of what Rescue 8 is, that Chris keeps calling engine 8.
All right, so before he gives that, so let
Yeah.
me just make sure, I'm looking at the proposed capital plan, which shows the second portion of funding for Rescue 8 in fiscal year 2025. Are we agreeing to move that?
That is the request, and that is the request, is it
Yes,
not?
that is correct.
Well, that's the request.
No, so the request only happened in 2025, because when he filled out his application.
That's what I mean.
He wrote it by mistake as
Well,
2025.
either he wrote it by mistake or he misunderstood the terminology as to how a fiscal year is defined.
Either way,
So my question is, are we moving that into 2024?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, right?
Yes, and I apologize, I went with,
That's, no,
as I explained it, looked at the first numbers, and
No, but it's actually a very good lesson for all of us to learn. So for instance, I'm making this up, if a bridge we decide to break up, or Board of Finance decides to break up and put over two
They should-
2 years, we
exactly.
have to make sure it falls in that category, it's an automatic.
Okay, so, again, just to be sure, so I'm crossing it out in fiscal 25.
yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
But it needs to be more than 200. If the estimated price was 425, don't you need 225?
That would be, I guess,
That's
the
it.
request.
That would
But I, again, trying to, as we all work together, in my understanding, and especially having more info from the subcommittee that, is being worked on, I understand there's only so much there, so it would, and what I understood, take away from last year's meeting, was 200,000 was pretty much the max you could do, so it may have to, instead of being divided up into 2 years, it may have to go to 2.25 years.
Well, that's
Or
something that
something,
we,
so-
we can determine, or the Board of Finance can determine, or the
Because
people can
what the
determine.
Board of Finance often looks at, and this goes back to when Chris was the chair and it's continued, is go down to the bottom of that column,
Yeah.
Alan, and you'll see in the gray, the 1,117,000, that just jumps off the page at them, and they want that reduced.
Right, that's gotta get lower, because they can't come up with that much money in the
Well,
whole thing.
they say that they are of the belief that they can't.
Such thing as can't.
Well,
They-
it's more difficult to come up with that much money, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
so that's why sometimes things get moved, just, which, you know, that's why engine one was split up into 3 parts.
Yes,
So just,
yep,
you probably have a better understanding of that.
especially of engine one, and yes, and the rate, and I do have a much better understanding I do now than I did a month ago.
That's
I mean,
what Chris was
I mean,
saying. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead on Rescue 8.
So-
Chris's question.
So, yeah, so Rescue 8, again, similar to, or similar, identical to what we did before, it is a, actually, just looked at the manufacture date, it was November of, 2001. So when we get to, this year, or the year we'd be talking about, so we're 23 years old,
Mhm.
on that setup. Rescue 8 is, just what it is a rescue truck. It carries the primary Hearst tool or extrication equipment. It carries our cold water equipment. It also acts as a command post, so we can go up inside and stand there. We have radios and
That's the
work
big
table.
box truck.
Yes, it's like a box truck, yes. It carries our cascade system, which is how we refill bottles when we're at the scene of an incident, for the air that we carry, that we breathe our air in. It also has other things like for the Appalachian Trail rescues, that we perform up there. That's the main thing is.
So
to carry those
does it respond to almost every call that the department makes? Almost every call?
Almost every call, yes. It's basically, well, now we have the ladder, depending on the type of call, it's second due out for all motor vehicle crashes, so you can just imagine how many car crashes, when you talk about types of fires, that goes out. And it's third or fourth out, depending on for a residential call, or house type of fire, or anything involving a structure, or, I say residential is main, but depending, because the ladder would be second out, right, for the commercial side of things.
Right. Okay, so, and that, again, Rescue 8 is how old now, the existing Rescue 8?
It's a 2001.
That's the one. Do we have that page?
You don't have that page, no.
Oh, okay. Could I write on this page?
No, that's my only,
Manufacture date was November 13th, 2001.
that's my only, that's his original.
I just want to write the age and stuff on it. Would you, she won't let me write it now. Would you write some information on that, please?
Should I move this up and then put my initials next to it?
No,
And
just-
tell me where you wanna put the other 25.
Just the age of the vehicle, anything that's pertinent, just so we have it. So I guess this.
Probably they'll know I made the difference, I guess, right?
So this is, that's garbage, correct? Just trying to.
Any other, I'll make a note, but we can put any
It's
other
old.
on this and give it to you, but any other
Put a good face down.
questions on that? I'm
No,
not
anything,
aware of this, so-
anything that might come up, let's say the Board of Finance wants to know
Yep.
when they're not there, so,
Yes.
or you're not there. so.
I'll make some notes about what we said about what it's primarily used for and so forth.
Yeah, just give us some background information, would be helpful, so, and then give it back to Joyce.
So, and it's called a rescue truck, but it's true multiple purposes, it carries the cascade, it does things that, other things can, so you don't have to have it individual, some departments have a cascade trailer, they have this and that, so it's a multi-truck that combines a bunch of things.
I had talked to you a year or two ago based on a magazine article that I saw. I think I gave you the article, and it would seem if this was ever a possibility, it might be with this vehicle. any thought on the possibility, and I'll use this truck as an example, with saving the box and getting a new chassis? Or would that be probably a waste of time in terms of savings, or?
It does get looked at, and was looked at many years ago by a lot of departments in that particular case, you know, for certain things. But when and most of that's done when you have a rotation plan of like 15 years, you know, say a 12 to 15 year. In this case, we're looking at a rotation plan of, you know, 20 to 25 years. So if something's that old, the idea of taking it off and moving it into something else, with the cost involved, right, there's just not enough. If we were a department, let's say, was a busier department and had more miles on and more hours on the main motorized portion of it, then something like that, you know, might make a lot of sense to do that, you know, to move those things over. But being that you can make things go again 20, 25,
Because
you know, 30 years.
the box would seem to be, I mean, you guys take such good care of stuff, at least from the untrained eye when I look at your equipment, that it would seem the box would be almost last forever, and if I'm exaggerating.
Right.
So what goes are the chassis with rust and so forth, and the engines wear out and stuff, but just bring it up to me.
Yes, and again, so it is, the idea was, again, heavily more looked at 10, 15 years ago, you know, in that concept of it.
So, Alan, you mentioned the life expectancy, if you will, or the usage time. When you use those numbers of 15-year rotations, can you give me a perspective? Is that a national average? Is it just averages versus towns our size or usage our size? As an example, I would imagine that making that Torrington runs their trucks 3 times as much as we do. All right, so there must be a wheel time, but there also must be an equipment time. How do you judge that?
Well, NFPA has a standard on, and they have a maximum on a Class A pumper. A lot of it's rated on the pumper side of it, so it would be like the engine 1 that's being replaced, you know, that's a combination pumper tanker. So
Okay.
each department or each thing has its setup, and like a ladder truck has its, you know, big ladder testing that has to be done, which is significantly different than a rescue or an engine. The engine has its annual pump and tank inspections, pump testing and so forth. The rescue doesn't have those pumps on it, so it's not as much. So all those come into factors into the decision-making budget.
But are those ratings based on new technology, or is it based on wear and tear because of calls, number of calls?
I don't know what NFPA, how they derive with their standard. And then NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, has an actual standard for everything that involves with the fire service and so forth. So they have, you know, committees that are put together throughout the United States and come up with this guidebook or rules. I don't know what goes into determining the length of things. Like, for example, the NFPA says the tires on a fire truck can be no more than 7 years old.
Right. No matter what. If the truck just sits there for 7 years, you gotta replace it.
Flat rate, their thing is 7 years old. That's their standard.
Now, you have to follow those standards?
Good practice, yes, we are not under penalty of,
But good
Of
practice
law.
would say if you only ran it 4 times in 7 years and they're requiring you to do that, you could send an appeal that says I've run the truck 4 times. And they would say, okay, or maybe not, I don't know.
how I do it as the chief currently of the department is I weigh the risk factor and what the item is. Our insurance company, you know, that's a standard, if you're
Sure,
in
they
a
weigh in.
lawsuit,
Yep.
you guys were talking before
Yep.
about liability
They
and all
weigh
this
in.
stuff. So again, you go with what a national standard is, and then you would decide if something happened and you were in a lawsuit, do you meet that standard? If not, why? You know, you'd have to argue certain things and so forth. So those are all factors that go into it. In Connecticut, we are not what's called an NFPA state. Certain states have it, it's the law, just like the posted speed limit. Connecticut does not. So we are not under the law that we will be penalized,
Gotcha.
you know, or put in jail or fined money, you know, whatever the penalties would be, if we don't follow the exact NFPA standard currently in Connecticut. There's OSHA standards and so forth that we, you know, follow and go.
So one other thought, totally separate and more online, what we're talking about Park and Rec. And I know you've already touched on it. A couple of years ago, we went through a whole roster of trucks of what you needed, why you needed, when you needed them, how the rotation. going forward, and I mean, we've already touched on it before with Bruce and me, but much like we've asked Park and Rec, if you can give a projected down the road, what do you need to run the company forward, what are you anticipating truck-wise? I think that would be very helpful in deciding what and how we do movement. Now, you already made the jump, so you're in, but we're really talking about next coming in, because where I see it as important is if we're doing engine one, and I'm making it up, but that becomes like the truck, and you need more money for that, maybe we should think about that rather than replacing another truck that we talked about before.
Yep, and you're right, I have touched base on this, and I was thinking that my mindset was thinking the same thing when we were talking about Park and Rec. So what I announced or discussed last year before you and at the Board of Finance meeting was that we're doing just that. You talked about how, and I forget the word you just used with Park and Rec, but how circumstances have changed, or there's different things that happen because of only so many kids in the school, said so things have evolved from when I was a kid, to what it is today, or there's either more or less or whatever it is. So when I became chief last year, I took the same position and have the support of my officers, and we're moving forward. I assigned Gary Hawk, who I'm sure you all know, he's been assistant chief for many years. He's heading up the committee to evaluate all of our apparatus. There's a committee that's already started and working that forward to sit there and say, okay, we have engine one, which is an engine tanker. Is that the way we go forward?
Right.
And then we have a separate engine, engine two, which is now probably 6 years old. So they come into a replacement plan, but we also have, brush truck, you have a rescue, you have a pumper 6, which is just a pumper, doesn't even carry any water. So we have all of these things, and with the way things evolve between, firefighting tactics, between manpower that we have, between mutual aid workings, between all of these things, can we redesign and not replace every truck that's in the roster, but can we combine certain things and make it more efficient for us to use, and also...
You had talked about that at some point.
Exactly, so as you bring that up, I'll re-echo that is exactly the direction we're going, to have that master plan and have it carry out for a 15, 20, 25 year. That doesn't mean that in 10 or 15 years it might need to be looked at, the same thing, but that's the direction we're going, to put together a plan and have it evaluated and approved within the department. But look at that, so the concept here, and again, I can't stress enough, it's the concept, is to be able to take 3 or 4 pieces of pieces of equipment or apparatus, and be able to make and perform the same functions, but be able to maybe combine them, so you're only talking about 3, pieces, or maybe 2. If you're doing 3, then 2, or doing that.
Well,
so we're saving, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a one-time. Plus things go down as it goes down the road.
I don't want to get too excited, because that may not be the case when you do your study. So what I'm simply saying is, your study is great, and I think it's, again, like these guys, it's time for all of us to maybe just reevaluate and look down, but where it's important is on that side of the line,
Yes.
and that you get it sooner than later, because we don't want to be here next year, and you say, well, we need another truck, and yet we don't have a plan.
Right. And our goal, and I think we're on target to meet that goal, is that by later, let's say the 3rd quarter of 2019,
Okay?
we should have that plan.
Okay, good.
Then enough where the department can make the decisions and evaluations and so forth, and as we move forward. So that's our goal and our plan, and this fits into it no matter what, you know what I mean, as we move
I got
forward.
it.
So.
I got it. All right,
Okay, so I think we got a good idea
thank you.
as to the department, so unless you have anything else, Alan, you are excused and thanked for your time.
Thank you, I'll make a couple of notes on here.
And if you'd like a copy of that, you can make a copy with you to take as a lovely parting gift.
I can always stop in.
Chris, I got a question for you, and if you'd rather not answer it right now, say so. There's been talk over the years, and by that I mean maybe 10 years, about considering flat funding things like the fire department, the highway department, and when they get to a certain level and say, we've got $400,000, because you've given us $100 a year, they come to us and they buy a truck. Do you have any thoughts, positively or negatively, on that concept? I don't remember if it came up when you were on.
Well, in
Finance,
effect,
there were some Board of Finance people that were vehemently opposed to it, I think.
Yeah, because it came flat, when you do that, there's just this assumption that you don't really know what you want. and that is funding something. So we have flat funding. This is what flat funding is, in effect, across the board, taking a project and funding it across time with long-term planning.
But knowing what the project is.
But knowing what the project is. And I think that's where it's important that we point it out, because you don't wanna get into the situation with a taxpayer where, and I'm gonna make it up, we say we're gonna put a bridge in, and then we all say it's gonna be Marty's bridge, and Marty buys in and everybody pays their taxes, and then it doesn't become Marty's bridge, it becomes Chris's bridge, and then all of a sudden, we've just done this, and the taxpayer has specifically found that Marty's bridge is the problem. And so, this is why this, even though we flat fund it, but they're for specific, projects, and I think it works well. We just have to mark them all so we know exactly what they're for. So over the playgrounds from,
No, I just bring it
Park and
up
Rec.
because, we've discussed it over past boards, and I didn't think we had ever.
yeah, well, in effect, if you look at the fire
I think
department.
maybe we did
there's
discuss
lots
it when you were on Board of Finance, and I didn't recall what your stand was on it, so. Anyway. All right, we ready to move on? Should we make Marty wait till the end?
It's Marty's bridge.
Okay, Rick. You have, coming in, truck number 9, at 2:30, that's one of the regular,
Yeah.
route trucks. One of the-
Yeah, that's the all-wheel drive one that we purchased used.
Oh, with the white one, okay, okay.
So, I'm sorry, you have to help me, I'm, not truck savvy. What is it, a dump truck, is it a, what?
It's the one that doesn't stop the stop sign by your house when you pull out.
It's
We're not home, so.
It's the only
Marty,
one,
Marty.
it's the only one that's white.
So it's a big dump
Yeah,
truck.
it's a dump, all-wheel drive dump
And it
truck.
was purchased, used through Freightliner.
Okay,
They had a sweet deal on it. It had been repossessed from a resort in Montana. And they offered it to us at a really good price and saved a lot of money.
and so that's what we call number 9.
And that's referred to as number 9, and it's been a good truck, but it's also been a lot of trouble. Rick spent a lot of time with the wiring this past year.
Okay,
Cause somebody went through it before they got foreclosed and pricked all the wires.
I took everything.
Is that what you found?
Yep.
Mhm.
See.
All right, and so that's
That's a normal rotation of that.
that's a normal rotation, that's a big one too.
Okay, and that of course could be, if necessary, broken into a couple of pieces if we had to.
Well,
I'm not
back,
We'll go back to
it's backing up
why
on
we
everything.
wanted flat funding.
Right.
Backing up
You
on
gotta
everything.
start, we put something in there on normal rotation and you start breaking it up, you must just.
You might as well lose the rotation, yeah. You also have in there 345 for drainage work on Botsford Road. And that's it, right? Yeah. Botsford work is drainage work, for the most part.
Repave
Mhm.
the road.
Repave the whole road.
I believe the engineer included the whole road for the repave, and drainage is only from a certain point to a certain
Right.
point on the road.
Right.
It's been 4 years since I looked at that estimate, when it started out. 10th year.
So is this something you think is going to get revised down, up? Talking about the
Normally,
Botsford Road,
engineers' estimates, I end up going down on them when it finally goes to bid, but
but we're 5 years out.
this one requires an easement, so until we get the easement, it won't be able to get done.
Sorry, I was just letting John know as our
Thank you.
engineering director, there's multiple incidences going on right now at schools around the state. They got a cyber investigation, state police are
Did you get anything
responding.
yet, Marty?
State police are responding to multiple areas.
Connected in any way, or?
They don't know.
Cyber,
Newtown,
cyber attack.
Newtown, Griswold, Seymour, a couple other areas of all schools and other areas.
Denial of service, what are they claiming?
It's
It's
not
suspicious activity. It's
looking into it, I haven't heard any more yet, so I just got that.
After school program.
Kids are on the way to
So
school
don't
anyway.
Forget us, that's
Thank
where I'm going.
Did you get a copy of that page, Alan?
Yes, Shanika, thank you very much, thank you.
And
Oh, my
Joyce, you
notes.
have it now?
I do.
All right,
I have to leave.
thanks for your time, John.
Yeah, thank
Alan,
you.
thanks for your
Thank
time
you.
as
I
well.
come by
Appreciate it.
vegetables, so get them ready.
Stay on that.
Okay, anything else on Rick, Chris?
No, it's just clearly this consumes almost half of the bottom line.
Yep, it
And
does.
that's the challenge, because
215, 230, yes.
year in and year out, we know we need trucks and we are rotating them through bridges and roads, that's what it is.
It is, yeah, it's the cost of doing business, and I can assure you, Chris, that this being going into my 10th year, they do take good care of those vehicles, they don't,
Yeah, they do. And responsibility, that's,
yeah. No, I'm just pointing it out, that's all.
I guess, the same question that would be put to you, and not even a question, just a sort of a statement to maybe provide for us as the year's coming in, some sort of overall plan. I mean, I know you're rotating these out on a normal basis, so there's not much more you can really say there, other than, maybe taking a hard look as to, can you combine trucks? Do you need different trucks? Do you need, I don't know.
And we
I don't
did,
know if it's gonna change all that much.
I was gonna say, on the trucks. Oh, I know. Didn't we find, Rick, a year or two ago that our replacement time was considerably longer than most?
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
So, just trying to understand in your processing, Rick, this 345, how long ago did you get that number?
It started out in the 10th year, so it's been in for 5 years already.
The new 345 for Botsford?
Yep, started out here.
Oh, okay,
Across.
I'm sorry. So, okay, so that's how it worked, all right. Well, I guess my thought on that is where you would flat fund.
How you would flat?
So, for instance, if Rick sees in 2024, but it was out here, so 5 years ago, he realized he needed to replace this, right?
Yeah.
And we got estimates. Maybe at that point, we start kicking across pieces of it, so that when it lands here, we're already ahead of it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? That kind of flat funding, if you will. It's
You
not,
don't fund anything outside the 5 years. How's that gonna- Just because it's in that.
what I'm simply saying is if this were 5 years ago,
Yeah.
then you would have had $100,000 here as opposed, and then you would have been moving across. Do you see what I mean? So it's,
But he already has other projects, Chris, that he's put in
No,
out in
I-
over the 5 years, so really, your theory probably wouldn't work that way.
well,
Because the bridges and the roads, if you see every year, he already has a
I see they're all
couple
slotted.
hundred.
I see they're slotted, yeah. I see they're slotted.
I think that's the way we manage the
Mhm.
5-year capital. We actually look at it as a 10-year capital, so when we
Yep.
put projects
I
in,
get it.
Yeah,
So-
that is true.
just for clarification,
No.
sorry.
The other groups after that keep pushing it back, so.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, some of them end up being in the capital plan for 12 years, right?
Well, that's unfortunately, well, it has to happen. If you wanna keep this bottom line, which has been the philosophy, and if not, then, the good news is that we have streamlined it such that everybody now knows you've gotta think and get a plan and put it in front. The problem is when you ask that, you get a big bottom line,
Yes.
so. Okay, that's all I have.
Tink you, Rick.
Well,
Did you get the guardrails today? Did they come
They were
today?
working on it, but today's sort of Friday, so whatever they got today will be it until Monday.
Okay.
One side was, they didn't have the two end pieces, but all the rest of it was up on one side already.
Okay. All right, Marty, last but certainly not least, I see you've been punching that, is that phone or calculator?
Calculator.
Okay. So you've got, under fiscal '24, 266 for roof / parking lot, so I'm.
Roof, it's just the roof.
It's just roof?
Correct,
Mhm.
just roof.
It's the final payment, isn't it?
It's the final of the,
Correct. It's the final
of the roof, so the roof is 266, 216, and 266?
Right, the 50 additional, is actually the finish of that,
The
part of the,
The
of the
50 of the
roof.
2025?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, like, for some reason it was taken out of the 260, it would have been 265 or 266 in '23, but they moved to 50. This was again part of the dividing it up over
Yeah.
a lot of time, but because the bottom line at that time was considered about what they wanted in the total.
They threw it in.
Threw the 50 at the end, and we said, all right, I guess.
So, to be
So the roof
clear,
went for it, yeah.
so like, 50,000 in that 266 is towards the parking lot?
No,
No,
two
it's
roofs.
just
There is no
all-
there is no
Okay.
parking lot in that line. The columns are,
It's
how you
kind-
do lines and columns here, I don't
Yeah,
understand. You should
yeah.
have it all in a line, not in a column, because you're confusing as you go up and down. But, yes, so it should be roof only.
So I'm gonna scratch
So-
parking lot.
Correct.
So
You take
all
the parking
4
lot.
of these, Marty, under
Correct,
KCS
for the
building
roof.
improvements are all for the roof, for
Correct.
the same roof?
For the same
Correct.
roof, right.
All right, I'm just for describe, I call it roof.
Yeah.
How can I, what kind?
It's roof, roofing
Scratch the
replacement.
parking lot.
What section? What just?
It's the new, part of
It's
the
the
new
one that
section.
was
of the roof.
replaced not long ago.
No, the one, no, that's still in,
And
that
you're
was a
planning-
30-year,
Yeah,
the roof that's replaced is a 20-year, and it comes up at 2022.
right,
And it's 20 years, so we expanded it to 25 years, and I gambled it, you know,
yeah, no, I
reasonable that
understand
it'll probably
that.
stay
That makes-
fine. We do
That's what
some
capital plan
maintenance,
is
so
all
that's
about.
right, so we pushed it out.
But so, what section of roof is this?
This is the section that was not replaced, the one from the beginning, it's the old part that is in the new section for the kindergarten section in first grade, where the windows are being done.
Okay,
It's all on that one. That was done, again, 20 years ago, or
Okay.
18 years ago, right now. So whenever that new part of that addition was put on,
all right, I have that here.
yeah. Yeah, it's going from a 20-year to a 30-year.
Okay.
That's fine. In order? I don't know the date exact, so you go back 20, yeah, it was put on in 20, so it's been 18 years.
Wasn't put on in
So 99,
2000.
99 to 2000, 99 to 2000, so it was put on.
Our furnace is in the barn, not in the apartment.
Is this it?
It's a capital,
Re-roofing of the 2001 roof sections,
Right.
existing
There,
valves?
yeah, sorry.
This is it? This is
Right.
what we're talking about,
Mhm.
23,690 square feet
Correct.
of a
Yeah,
20-year
20,000.
roof
Yeah.
with a fully adhered 30, so this is the
That's it, sorry,
explanation
it's
of that.
2021, or 2001.
Okay, this is a good explanation here, but the numbers have changed. Initially, it was 399 in one year and 399 in another, so that's been all spread out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that was to.
So these numbers are
Right.
not accurate, but the
No.
description is.
Correct. The numbers actually in the capital plan are correct.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, I just ran those numbers again, that's right.
Okay, so this is.
They just need to be relabeled, correct? They just need to be all relabeled to say roof.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, get off whatever it says on the parking lot. The
Okay.
parking lot is actually the next line down,
Okay.
so.
Well, maybe that's why it was cut. The parking lot is, which line down, Marty?
Right after Casey's building improvements, and then right below that one is windows.
Yeah,
The first improvement should be roof, the second line is windows, actually. The 100,000 in 2021, that's been moved forward. That was our request last year to
Yeah.
actually advance funding so that we could get it done this year with the,
yeah, I remember
that was
that.
approved, and we took 1% of our budget and put it on a non-expiring account and so on. So it'll be actually done this year, this
So
summer.
it stays in 2021,
It stays in 2020, actually.
so it should be in 2020?
That 100,000, yeah, that 100,000 has actually moved up to,
So I can take that out of
Correct.
2021?
$100,000, yeah, is eliminated.
It just got pre-funded, you can't move it in the
Yeah.
budget.
Oh,
You
oh,
authorize
oh,
pre-funding, but you
pre-funding.
can't
Oh,
you can't move it.
Refund, I understand.
He's doing it different than,
Yeah.
your plan needs to stay,
I get it.
because it's still not fully
I
funded.
understand.
Right. So this should say when,
well,
On our
it's been
end.
fully taxed. It actually went to
it's
town
fully
meeting this
funded,
year.
it's not fully
funded.
taxed. It's not fully taxed
Correct,
unless this is
correct,
done,
correct.
till that moves up.
There,
Correct.
right.
Okay, the other three you have in 24, 25, 26, all 136,
Correct.
235.
That's the
All right.
repaving and upgrade sidewalks and drainage and all that.
That's all that.
Correct.
Okay, so that was, we gotta have a major changes. This is all sidewalks.
Correct. Paving approximately.
So there's nothing about windows in here.
No windows are done, you're right. It's pre-funded but not the
Sidewalks,
pre-tax.
paving. And what else?
Well, I think,
Paving approximately 54,000, choose here, the definition, you probably have that
I'm sure I
somewhere.
have that.
And then and we certainly would love to work with anybody at a better cost.
so this is a 3-year
We want
commitment.
marble, correct, we want marble curving, not granite. And we'd like to actually see if we can't get more people into the school, because that's what's really important in the school, so. Like to have covered walkways, so we're gonna be asking for additional money for covered walkways.
I get it, Marty. So,
I don't have that request.
okay, would you like to make the comment?
Down there and put three pipes on
Oh,
it?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Wait a second.
No, we're gonna have electrical conduits, and no salt.
All right, so this is a 3-year commitment, at least the way we have it lined up.
I do, but if you notice the
Divided
money
again,
at the bottom.
similar to what we looked at
different
before.
places.
I looked at, remember I was just running?
I give you the rough money. This is the one you just gave Joyce, and this is the one I have. So this is the proper placement of these
Correct, we
numbers,
changed,
not up
yeah,
here.
correct, that was a mistake, either I did or somebody did it
Okay.
last time, we changed it down, to reflect, it was done at the Board of Finance,
So
and I
the rest
realized
of the
I
supporting
typed it,
material
correct,
is all-
that's all the same.
It's all the same. Okay, so if I could get a copy of that too.
Yeah, that was,
So,
I realized I just threw it in the wrong lines and submitted it in a rush. In a rush to get it in late.
So do you have plans on those, ideas? Do you have a,
Yeah,
look at the schematic of it?
On Windows?
No, we're looking at the paving.
That's it, okay.
Mhm. No, you have the, I just wanna see the,
That's for window replacement. I think this is all. Oh,
That's all.
No.
Paving is actually, yeah.
very first one.
Right there. That's-
Oh, this is-
That's
our
all we're
paving.
looking at.
No.
So you're gonna replace all of this?
Correct, all that's are now, these have all been eliminated already.
Yep, I saw that,
And
they've
so
been patched.
They've been patched, right,
Mhm.
with a cold patch last year.
Mhm.
And so, again, all the existing areas that the town, or the school, town/school now maintains, would be repaved.
Even
Here,
this
correct.
part of the road?
This part of it, no, not the road itself,
Not the
actually
road,
down to the
just-
parking area.
just the
It's a
parking.
different shade, you can see.
Yeah, I
This-
see it,
this is-
yep.
This is the town area, this is to the gate, right here, to the gate that
Yep.
goes into the back, so
Yep.
that's our responsibility here. The paving, right now, there's existing stone dust, driveway into the back, that we would wanna pave over. Partly because of the, where all the bricks are, the memorial bricks are, they're all popping out of the walkway down here. Because there's no, nothing structurally sound supporting it on one side,
Yeah, nothing's,
there's, into the grass, there's one little,
so you're gonna pull all that out?
no,
No,
we'll
just-
we'll just pave up to it.
Pave up to it.
And protect it that way.
No, that,
But,
that stone dust walkway.
Yep, right.
I was part of the group of teachers that built that, and it used to be paved for most of my time there.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they had decided, it wasn't in great shape,
Right.
but they had decided, and I can't remember the reasons why, that they no longer wanted it paved, but now the school does want it
Yeah,
paved again.
absolutely, because to get in to do all the maintenance we have to do underneath and put the trucks in, we have to drive a lot of trucks in through it, and it digs it up, that
Mm.
stone dust. So now, as we're doing more maintenance in our plumbing, electrical work, pumps, and so on, somebody's beeping, that's me. That's like, yeah, we're actually building more trucks in, and as we do the roofing and so on, when we did the painting, remember we sealed the outside of the school and repainted it, and all that. Yeah, we dug it up quite a bit, so we had to go ahead and recreate it. So we're thinking, for the next 10 years, as we start having to do more work, we need to have trucks be able to access that center courtyard. And if we're gonna be digging up and then repairing it, we might as well go ahead and pave it. It makes it easier for snow removal as well. Kids do play as you know, they go in and out of that courtyard, that's one great thing about the school.
Well, people used to park back there.
Yeah, well, they don't allow- we
Used to
don't allow
park
that.
there,
Yeah.
so, I think-
Unless we're dropping stuff off, I think anybody,
Okay,
pull her in the cage.
all right, so again.
But yeah, it's all the, just the bituminous
So-
structure.
So these last three are all sidewalks and
Mhm.
paving. Okay.
Right. Now, looking at your, you know, the concern again, for the FY '24, 1,000,001 and all that, you could conceivably push it back, but if you do that, you're not gaining anything. The next year, you're gonna pop back to close to the 900,000.
Well, every year we pop over a
Right.
million,
Right.
every year.
So, but I'm saying, but that was one of the concerns, I mean, if we, it's,
Well, we have
it's
a
chopped
million.
up, and we know how parking lots work. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody's
Yeah.
been behind Irish store knows it, you know,
Mhm.
pond.
And there's a cost savings, obviously, to do it all at once versus doing it in like
Well,
this section, this
Correct,
section, this
exactly,
section.
because you're tying it in, anytime, as you know, you start patching, really, you're not replacing and fixing.
Mm.
So if you want an extended life to go any longer, you don't have seams, you know,
Right,
as
you
much
don't
as you
have
can.
seams,
You don't have seams, many have that, you start having lift
Mhm.
changes in
Mhm.
construction, changes in plant materials, you know, plants will produce different types of materials, different time of year, so it's a mess.
Right,
I
but
think,
you,
yeah.
but
So,
you.
we would fund it all for one project, but we would.
Well, but just to be clear, from this point where the existing gate is,
Correct.
down to here is a small pour, it's a small roll.
Right, here's all the playground and the.
Right, so I guess my question is that you could certainly parcel off and do either, let's just say if you had the money tomorrow.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we could take that number and knock it down and just do a section.
Okay, yeah, we'd have to get the bid on that, yeah, sure, anytime. I mean,
And then
we can do
this
that.
looks like the big boy.
This is the big, because
This is
it
the
is
big
tied in together.
Yeah,
with
yeah, I
each other,
totally get what
you
you're
know,
saying, you
yeah,
can't have a
wanna do it all.
seam, it'll,
Right.
weeds and water will always
Yes. No,
start
and
right
it's
away.
only, it's a usable time period, this is used a lot more.
Yeah, yeah.
We're also, you know, so whatever year we decided to do that, we'll have to make adjustments to the time it takes to actually get a company in here to do it.
Well, I guess that's
whatever
what-
activity.
I see two pieces,
Yeah.
a smaller one and a big one.
Mhm.
And if you were open to it, maybe there's a way to do the bigger one first and then the one in the back comes last, or vice versa, whatever.
Now, Rick,
Cost-wise, I don't know if there'd actually be any savings at the end, Chris. Because you're gonna have to bid this all out and put it under all the environmental stuff, everything else you have to do for removal and testing and all that stuff. You have to pay for a second set of engineering studies and so on,
Oh,
or you can
okay.
do it all in one. If
Yeah,
you do it all under one, whatever year it's decided to do it. I mean, if you wanted to break it up, like I said, if you wanted to break it up another year and push it to a different year, we could do that, but I don't think you're gonna get any savings by trying to do it in two different sections. If, you know, the funding piece versus the actual construction piece. I don't know, Rick, tell me if I'm wrong, if you're gonna do it when you have everybody there to do it, doing two different, I mean, you know, you're right, you could look.
It's gonna be cheaper for a ton the more you do,
Right,
because if you do a little,
yeah, small.
anything, even if they do it on state pricing, up to 500 tons, one price, from 500 to 1,000 ton in a day is,
drops,
it drops like half.
okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, if you had money at the end of the year, want to do the courtyard or something like that, that would be one thing, but for the
Right.
parking lots.
and please do,
Yeah.
when it's time, talk to
Oh,
Rick
absolutely,
about
yeah, no, we already
state-
talked,
state
to do
pricing.
that, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It was just.
I mean, I guess the way I look at it is, Rick just made the point, if you have money at the end of the year and you can do that, why wouldn't you try to tackle that and leave this off? But if there's an engineering issue,
Which all has to be done, it's all, I mean, all the, yeah, architecture, engineering fees and so on, construction costs and so on, escalated. Hazard material removals, and all that cost would change differently because of the two different. But yeah, we could at some point, if,
I'd be curious just to know what that would cost,
yeah, we could-
Which
out of the
book?
break.
all right,
Well, I'm just looking at this little,
between now and January, I'll do a.
that little finger.
That wouldn't be much.
We'll do a cost breakdown.
I don't know, I mean, it may not save us anything, and it may be just
It's like
smart to do it this way,
driveway.
Sure.
but, and how long do those engineering plans last? I mean, like if you did them today,
Well,
did you pay
That's a
3
good
years from now?
Not being an engineer, I have no idea.
You know?
That won't change, because drainage won't change or anything.
Yeah, right, not for that.
And any, the numbers they put in there for material probably change, but. as far
I'm
as-
only addressing your point, Marty, if it gets kicked out, if if you will, rather than get kicked out, maybe we can get some of it in there
Put somewhere.
and then tackle the smaller problem, or part of the project. It may
The
not
only
be,
other issue,
maybe not smart.
the only other issue I have with what end-of-year funding and so on is just trying to estimate what end-of-year funding is. But part of what we took to the Board of Finance just this last fall, while we didn't put it in a capital plan, was the change to the front of the school. We wanna look again, if necessary, to improve those, if you've been in the front school, and Bruce, you're going quite a bit, Las Vegas, but try not to go to school, I try not to, doesn't work. But, the two-door system that we currently have, it doesn't make sense, because it doesn't actually have any control past the second door for people disappearing in the school. We do have cameras, as long as you can find what, you know, who
Where
it
they
was and
went.
what they did, you know,
Right.
where they went,
After the
but
fact.
we have had people in the past, just in the past year, gone through, but told they're coming in for a certain reason, no one's there actually agreement at the door, and they disappeared and harassed the teacher. Harassed
Something.
or family members, whatever it was. So, you know, we wanna protect that as well.
Yep.
But there's something we think we can do that within, what we can do, even if it's not this year, if we do what we've done in the past, on the recommendation of Barbara and others, is do a expiring 1% holdback for a project like that. But while we're doing it, is, if you remember a year or so, 2 years ago, when we did the whole A&E architecture engineering study, the complete school, including the AC units and all that, we have a problem, and we're having that, experiencing a problem with our pumps and our heating system. It's old analog systems, the pumps, they break down individually, they're not on a digital system, which has been upgraded to better work on demand, like your house, your heating system in your house. It's just an old system, very old, and the boiler's old. But like everyone else, we're trying not to replace that boiler because of the huge expense that would entail. And we've been pretty good about replacing things as we go along, so extending its life. So any other additional money we've had, we've put towards that without having to come back to town on that. And we have actually, I think, returned a little bit of money to the town this year. So, yeah, we could look at that. So some year, if we felt we had that going into the year to look at that, we could certainly take right now and take a look at what the cost would be to do that on its own. That would be the eastern part of the courtyard piece, independent of the main parking lot and the Judd Avenue and entranceway. We can do that. We'll take a look at that and see when we can come back and just have that data for you. You know, probably by January.
Before we wrap up here, let's just together run through this and make sure that the changes that we've agreed to are gonna go to the treasurer for changing the form. So, starting at the top, the word windows will be deleted under KCS building improvement.
No.
Well, you can't really say.
My recommendation was we take windows, and correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, that 136,235 is parking.
You
So
could
I
just
would
make a
do
number.
windows / parking lot, because this reads windows for the 100, parking lot is the next one in line.
Can't you
See what I
just
mean?
add a line in?
Well,
And
then
it's-
Well,
we
that's what we
get
need to-
crunched.
Well, then we take one of the empty lines out. I mean, I don't know how you want to do it, but yeah.
Oh, that's up to the treasurer, I just wanna make sure that we all agree.
Well, however, yeah, that's
What
fine.
should be done.
But it's, yeah, the 100,000 is the window, and that's right, the taxable piece versus the
Right.
actual allocated piece. So we're fine with that, but, yeah.
I
And
mean,
then
it's just a,
if you want to do that, yes, I would do it that way. Don't put,
Okay, and then, under 2024, parking lot is to be, the word parking lot is to be deleted.
correct.
The word roof will be placed under 2025.
No.
It's
No,
the 50, for the 50,
Oh, correct.
right?
Yeah, correct.
yes.
that's the finalize it.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. The 136,235 times 3 is all sidewalks / paving.
Correct.
Okay. Moving down, so we're done with Marty.
Okay.
Moving down to fire department, under fiscal 23 and 24, rescue 8 are the labels, and 200 should be under both of those.
No, 225 is under 24, is his request.
Did we, yeah, okay,
That's what he just put on his paper.
okay. And the rescue 8, 200 in fiscal 25 is deleted. And then if we go all the way down towards the bottom, park and rec playgrounds, the 250s are just so we know, and so people will be clear when we hand this out. The 250s are for the Kent Common Playground, and the 100 is for the Emery Park Playground. And then, at the bottom of that column, the 1,117,235 needs to be changed because of changes that were made above it. As does the 846,235 will need to be changed because of changes that took place above it. Anything else? Okay. Marty, do you need anything more?
No, this is it. If you're good, I'm good.
Thank you, Mark.
Motion to adjourn?
Is this what you're recommending to bring to the Board of Finance?
Yes.
Yes.
So then you need a
And we
motion
need a
to,
motion on that, but where these guys can.
you can excuse them, but you two need to decide.
I'll get the right word. We are bringing it, what are we doing? Are we approving it, endorsing it?
We have to approve it. We are approving the capital plan to be pushed, sent on to the Board of Finance. And then at that point,
Then it's up to them to make changes to it.
well, they can question us, they can actually ask these guys to come in, they can do anything they.
Okay.
And then we go in front of, I mean, they could choose not to do anything, likely they won't, right away.
Yeah, they never do before the
And
town
then
meeting.
there'll be the town meeting and they'll get input there, and then they have to go back and scratch numbers around.
Right.
At which point they may ask anybody and everybody in, including us.
Okay, so in that case, I would make a motion to approve the 5-year capital plan dated 11/13/2018, the copy, with the changes previously discussed. You want me to specifically?
I got 'em.
You got them? And previously discussed and will be shown in the minutes accompanying this meeting.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at